You are now tuned in to the TRUENORTH.BET NFL NCAA football podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Graham, and I'm pleased to be back. It's going to be an incredible one again because this week 10 was one for the books. And if you missed it, like I did at certain points, not going to be too good for you. But of course, we caught up and we got into a lot, and let's get right into it. Once again, this is TRUENORTH.BET podcast. Bet in the right direction at any point. Make sure to go to TRUENORTH.BET to cast all of your bets, as we have a number of different things for me. Gaming, esports, so on and so forth. And of course, every sport on TRUENORTH.BET. So that's definitely something you need to tap into as soon as you can, because it's about to be exceptional. Just like this past week 10 was. My goodness, where do we start? We already know where we're going to start. We're going to start with the Bills and Vikings in Buffalo, of course. All right. Incredible game in Buffalo. And it's something that we game of the year for sure. But in the past 2 to 3 years, even if you were to just watch the highlights of that particular game, it is one of the best games you will ever see. When you think about the LA Rams versus the Chiefs a few years ago, no, this game in Buffalo, Orchard Park, incredible. And to be honest with you, juggernauts coming right into it. We have the 7-1 Vikings coming into that game, and of course you have the Bills are at the top of the AFC East, of course, going for another win, another win to be on top of that division, and of course on top of it, most of the AFC, as they are right now still the favorites of that particular conference in general, and they're from the start of the year have already been touted as the Super Bowl favorites. But seeing a game like that happen, everything that occurred, being up 17 in the fourth quarter, the Bills, Devin Singletary rushing for 2 touchdowns, having guys like Dawson Knox catch a lot of balls, Stephon Diggs playing a great game, Josh Allen doing something. Josh Allen is someone that obviously did have a few costly turnovers, and of course the costly turnovers late as well too, but he played well for the most part until, of course, crumbled into the end. But everything about that game just did not make any sense. Nothing makes sense. But what we're going to do, we're going to go to the end of the game, okay? There was a point where the Bills were up 17 points, dominating the all first 3 quarters. Many of you will already know exactly, how the game already shaked out, because it was just one of the best games of all time, I really believe. But in the fourth quarter, having a touchdown to Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook. Remember, it's the cook-off Super Bowl. Of course, you have James Cook out of Georgia, family with Dalvin Cook, who's the starting running back for the Vikings. So a lot of people there, a lot of family there in the game to support those 2 guys, 2 running backs with dreads. Both guys are really, really fast, really shifty. And Dalvin Cook obviously is one of the best players, one of the best running backs in the entire league, of course, coming out of Florida State with James Winston and those guys, and being one of the best feature backs in all of the NFL because of his speed, because of his shiftiness. And he hasn't lost a beat at all in his game. And usually you start seeing a little bit of a drop off, but Dalvin Cook is still one of the best running backs in the game. He deserves to be, he's gotten paid, going to get paid a little bit more at some point because he's just that effective. But really, what does this come down to, right? We remember, and before, I'm going to get into that after, but we remember, of course, Kirk Cousins, after the game they win against the Commanders, in Washington. They've been on the road these past few weeks, and they've won on the road. You remember the game they had against the Saints in England, winning that, just scratching that out. A lot of people hating on the Vikings because, of course, Kirk Cousins is one of those guys that gets paid a ton of money, like a crap ton of money, and never really shows up. But this year gets his first offensive head coach ever, of course, right? Then last year didn't have that in Zimmer, didn't really have it in Rivera and Washington. Just in general, he didn't really have it with Shanahan or anyone in his career. Now he has O'Connell, and his entire outlook or his entire game is just elevated, right? Can't necessarily say that he's a guy that can take the Vikings to the Super Bowl. Well, you can take it to the Super Bowl, but to win the Super Bowl would be really, really tough. But they're 8-1 now. They end up winning and edging out the Bills in overtime, a game that has gone so many ways and so many different outcomes that could have happened in that game as well too. But I just want to highlight one thing. Kirk Cousins can throw the ball, but to be honest with you, a lot of what he does is just say, you know what? F it. Justin Jefferson's out there somewhere. And I remember many people have been following me and listened to my podcast for many years. I always talk about the 2019 LSU Tigers, as you had Joe Burrow, the quarterback, Jamar Chase, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. On that team, you have Patrick Queen. And of course, you have Justin Jefferson. Okay. Justin Jefferson didn't even win the Biletnikoff Award. Biletnikoff Award goes to the number one receiver in the entire NCAA landscape. There's over 100. There's a bunch of teams. AP 25. Jamar Chase actually won that. Jamar Chase was a sophomore, right? Held out pretty much up until his third year, that year that you have to play in order to get to the, well, you don't have to play, but the year you can, when you become a junior, after the year, you can end up going to the NFL. He was already a junior, Jamar Chase. So he's 1 year older than, Justin Jefferson. So he's already 1 year older than Jamar Chase, right? These names, obviously, when it comes to that, they both start with J's, so on and so forth. It's something. But Justin Jefferson from LSU was this, you would say, like one of the best receivers. Right? Remember, they taught the game they played against Texas, where they won wide receiver U. They were saying it's supposed to be DBU in Texas. Everyone remembers that game. They tore him up. He had like 3 touchdowns in that game as well, too. Jamar Chase obviously went off the entire year. No one can guard these guys. Like, there's no one on the outside that can guard them in all of the land. All Joe Burrow would do is get back, throw one of his guys. They're always open. They had Brady. Joe Brady is the offensive coordinator that got them freed up. You have, of course, Coach O. He had a really, really good defense as well, too. Of course, now with a number of guys that are playing in the league. You have a number of guys that are playing in the league on the defensive side of the ball as well, too, from that team. And it's one of the best teams of all time. But the point I'm trying to make is that Justin Jefferson did not win the Biletnikoff Award at all that year. And he was a junior. A sophomore, Jamar Chase won it that year. Seeing that those two guys right now are at the top of the league and being some of the 2 most productive receivers, only 2 to 3 years removed from their college days, is incredible. It's unprecedented. That has not really happened in a long time. He has the most yards, Justin Jefferson, for any player out of his first 3 seasons ever as a receiver. He passed Randy Moss just now. What he's doing is unprecedented. What he's doing is ridiculous. But that pales in comparison to his performance on Sunday. Okay. Before getting in the end zone the last week against the Washington Commanders, he hadn't scored for about 4 to 5 weeks since week 1 against the Green Bay Packers. He scored this week. But he did not only score this week, he torched the secondary of the Bills. Granted, Jordan Poyer's not playing, and Jordan Poyer right now, him being out, they're 1-3, their record, the Bills. So he's a really key piece in that secondary because Taron Johnson, Jackson, all these guys play better with Jordan Poyer there in the safety position. But he absolutely embarrassed the secondary of the Buffalo Bills. Absolutely embarrassed. Touchdown over the top, Deion Jackson. Throughout the entire game, he's getting open. He scores 2 touchdowns certain places. He was able to get wherever he wanted, middle of the field, depth, possession receiver when it comes to getting intermediate routes. He just could not be stopped. And of course, you have Thielen, you do have Cook, you have TJ Hawkinson. The fact that the Detroit Lions gave away TJ Hawkinson inside the division to the Vikings is beyond me. I don't know what. No, I have absolutely, I had no idea what the management, Dan Campbell, was thinking about giving away that tight end to the Vikings in the same division. But they did it. Who knows how, who knows why. Kirk Cousins even said that he was surprised to get him. There's so many storylines. The mere fact right now is the fact that this game was lost. Okay. 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. They're down 23-27 to the Buffalo Bills. Okay. Once again, Devin Singletary scored twice. Josh Allen got the ball around, was moving the ball around to certain players. Isaiah McKenzie was getting involved. Dawson Knox. Stephon Diggs, of course, had an incredible game. He had a one-hand catch. But there's a one-handed catch on 4th and 18. That is the greatest conversion of a 4th down ever. Ever. Greatest conversion of 4th down. I don't care what game it is. NCAA, NFL, CFL. Shout out to the Argos, by the way. Shout out to the Argos. They're going to the Grey Cup. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. There's never been a better fourth down conversion than Justin Jefferson's one-handed catch / interception from Jackson in this game this past Sunday. I can literally make this show strictly about that catch and what that meant. I can strictly make this show strictly about that game because it was that good and everyone talked about it. It's 4th and 18. Kirk Cousins is having an up and down game. He's throwing 2 picks. Typical Kirk Cousins. But at the same time, Kirk is playing a lot better this year because he's getting the ball to Justin Jefferson. Last year, you remember, if you really pay attention, there were times that Justin Jefferson was cursing Kirk Cousins for not getting the ball, saying, what the hell, Kirk? They didn't play well last year because Zimmer just didn't have an offensive-friendly game or game plan or offensive coordinators around. It was more so a defensive approach to it. And they're always running the ball with Dalvin Cook, running the ball right. That's the reason why they got torched by the Green Bay Packers every year for quite a long time with Zimmer at the helm. But now with O'Connell at the helm, they freed it up. Defense still plays really well, but offense has just opened it all up. Adam Thielen, a few 3-4 years ago, was the next up and coming big time receiver, young receiver. Justin Jefferson has just blown that out of the water. Let me go back to this. 4th and 18. If you're watching this game, 2 minutes left, you're down 4. 4th and 18. I can bargain and say 98% of the time, the game's over, unless you have a few penalties over and over. You're asking your offense to throw the ball 20 yards, 18, 20 yards to get a first down. So what that essentially means that the defense can be in cover 3. You have 3 guys back there. Everyone, someone's spying the quarterback probably. You have linebackers line up a little bit deeper. Nothing deep. You're beating nothing deep, especially when it's a guy that's been torching you all game. You don't let him get any separation or anywhere open, let alone be covered by one guy. What did the Bills do? They covered him with one guy. They had no one around him. He ran a corner out. 4th and 18. So let me say it. As a football person, everyone knows this should never happen. Kirk Cousins gets the ball back. He doesn't even look anywhere else. I guess he puts his eyes towards the left side of the field, comes back because you want to make sure that the defense obviously rotates over towards the left side as a quarterback, and of course throws it to Justin Jefferson. One-handed catch, and I'll have someone put this up there on TRUENORTH.BET podcast when it comes to Instagram. One-handed catch. It looked as though the ball was being intercepted by the Bills DB. Justin Jefferson caught it with one hand and snatched it from him, pretty much intercepted the ball and brought it in to convert the 4th and 18. It looks so routine, and even when you're watching him now, it looks like he's grown a lot more. So if you saw him in his third year university at LSU, it looks like he's gotten a little bit more taller, a lot stronger. He's obviously really elusive. He's just an incredible, very fun to watch receiver. And you have 2 guys. You have Diggs, who the aforementioned Diggs was that guy on the Vikings with Kirk Cousins, with Case Keenum, and that miracle catch as well too. Miracle time against the Saints. He was an up and coming receiver for the Vikings. So it's kind of a turning of the page for the Vikings because he actually requested to leave Minnesota, and then he ends up with the Bills, and then they're doing what they're doing. And now you're seeing the Vikings kind of shot up from the dead, and now are one of the best teams in the entire league. They're tied for the best record in the league at right now, 8-1, whereas the Bills are 6-3. Anyways, after that conversion, going down, I'm getting stopped on the 1-yard line, but Josh Allen goes up under center. All you got to do is get a QB sneak. What does the center do? He snaps it pretty much on his bum, and he snaps it to himself, but ends up going forward. Doesn't get the delivery, the transfer smoothly toward Josh Allen, fumbles on the 1-yard line, goal line. Eric Kendricks ends up going on it. Eric Kendricks of the Minnesota Vikings ends up going on it. They go up. The game should be over after that too. You pretty much cough it up. You lost the game there. Then you go down, you score, or you tie it up. All right. Then you go into overtime. Then Josh Allen throws the ball to Gabe Davis, which should have been a drop. Ends up being called a catch. Then you score. Then, of course, the Vikings get it back, and they like just the back and forth in this game was incredible, to the point where Josh Allen threw two uncharacteristic picks. But that's just who he is, right? He's a guy that throws the ball around, can make big plays, but gets out of the pocket and is going to throw on the run. He threw two picks to Patrick Peterson, sorry. Patrick Peterson has been one of the best DBs in the NFL for a very long time. A little bit older right now, but still understands coverages really well. But to end the game on a pick, to pick off Josh Allen for the 2-minute warning, of course, too, when they're down 23-27 is huge. Everything about this game didn't make sense. The Vikings should have lost 3 times. The Bills should have lost as well, too, at some point. The back and forth shows you that these two franchises that have not won a Super Bowl, their luck is somewhere in the air. Right now, you got two wagons of a team, okay? The Vikings ended up winning that game on a game-ending interception. The Josh Allen has, once again, he'll never forget that, but for that fumble, but you can call it kind of a butt fumble. Under center. He's going to think about it every time he goes up under center now, unfortunately. And as a quarterback, that makes total sense, because if you go up against, if you fumble the ball on the 1-yard line, it's kind of tough, right? You end up stopping them on defense, and you give that up. It's just hard to look into your teammates' eyes after you do that. And then you get a chance to go right back up and tie it up. You do that. You're supposed to win the game again. Then you don't. It doesn't end up happening. It's like Josh Allen, MVP contender. He's done so much all year. He's been incredible all year. You really can't get too mad at him. You have to let him go out there and be Josh Allen. But you've had 2 picks, a fumble in the crucial points of the game, at home as well too. It's gonna be tough to win. It's gonna be tough to win, and it's gonna be a tough transition for him to actually forget about this and move on to the next week, especially coming off of an injury for the ulnar nerve in his elbow. All of that now. I'm just getting this up right now to show you, because of course the Highmark Stadium. I keep calling it Orchard Park. It isn't Orchard Park, the stadium, but Josh Allen, having the year he's had, losing games that you probably shouldn't have lost. You lost to the Jets last week. You lose this game in terrible fashion. It's supposed to be a comeback kind of game. All of that to pretty much say, like, it's one of those games where you just have to let Josh Allen be Josh Allen. And that the Minnesota Vikings as well too have a chance. They're contenders. They have a chance to go pretty far, but can you really trust Kirk Cousins? Can you trust Kirk Cousins to even win a conference, let alone a game in the playoffs as well too? Because you get home field advantage. You have great fans in Minnesota, but everyone believes they can't get it done because of the quarterback they have. And now he's an MVP contender. He's playing a lot better, playing a lot, out of Michigan State. Remember, a lot of people have kind of dark feelings or bad feelings about him because of what happened with him in Washington with Robert Griffin III kind of taking that job. So everyone's always had like a kind of a icky feeling towards him from that stage. And of course, everything he's done, getting paid so much money he's done, being the nerd that he is as well too. Everyone kind of being like, this guy's a little bit cringe. So you have that feeling, kind of similar to a Russell Wilson that you have the Kirk Cousins. Like you don't want to like him, and you don't like because he's kind of nerdy, but then you like him after he does stuff like this and actually plays really well. Like he wears his ring when he plays. Like there's so many things about Kirk Cousins that people find cringe, people find kind of awkward, but you can't deny the fact that he's balling this year. He's throwing terrible picks, which is what Kirk Cousins does, and it's so hard, guys. I want you to understand how hard the quarterback position is. There's no position in sports as hard as the quarterback position, because you have to analyze the field. You got to analyze the rush. So that's why they're looking for more quarterbacks that can be dual threat quarterbacks rather than the pro style quarterback where it just sits in the pocket. Kirk Cousins is a pro style quarterback that's not going to necessarily run. He'll run when he absolutely has to, but he's surveying the field. He has a great arm. get the ball to his guys, but there are sometimes he just doesn't have it. Justin Jefferson's out there somewhere. But it's just really tough. So you're going to throw picks. You're going to be. I personally do not think they can get out of the NFC because there's a lot of teams now, especially with Tom Brady's Buccaneers coming. You have the Packers that won against the Dallas Cowboys. I know I've talked a lot about this game, but really, if you're paying attention to the football and you understand what happened this weekend, that game was the best game all year. No questions asked. And I think probably the best game in the past 2 years, 2 to 3 years that we've seen. So I was really blessed. And even if you watch the highlights, it's about 20 minutes long. Go back to NFL, watch that. Watch the ending that's 40 minutes long. Incredible game. But I say that to say this. I still think the Buffalo Bills are able to squeak out a lot in the playoffs. I think they have to go through these losses to kind of build a little bit more character, fight through adversity. Because if you don't go through adversity to start the season or at some point in the season, it's going to be hard for you to bounce back from being down. And you football is such an emotional game here. There's so many ups, there's so many downs. And you've seen incredible ups with the Buffalo Bills. You've seen incredible downs with the Buffalo Bills. And we'll continue to see that as we go. But you let me know. Do you think Kirk Cousins is capable of bringing the Vikings to the Super Bowl? I don't. I think their running game is great. Unfortunately, you can't run jet sweeps with Justin Jefferson all the time. So you have to throw the ball. So he's a guy that is heavily reliant on how Kirk Cousins plays. Him, Adam Thielen, TJ Hawkinson, but they have the pieces. Those 5 guys I just told you, have the pieces to do really well. Have the pieces to go the distance. And this is the year. You have O'Connell. You have everything there. If it's not now, when? If it's not now, when? And I can say that for the Buffalo Bills and for the Vikings in general as well, too. All right, moving on. Just want to say right here, Toronto Argos, CFL. I know we started with the CFL initially with this podcast. The Toronto Argonauts are going to the Grey Cup in Regina, Saskatchewan to play against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Blue Bombers have been the best team in the league by far all year. They played Argos really well, and now they're going for their three-peat. So I would say everyone, just football fans in general, I was at the Eastern Conference Final against the Alouettes, Toronto versus Alouettes. It was a great atmosphere. It was cold, but, you just get a little bit warm with some alcohol in there sometimes, just to warm you up, some hot chocolate. It was an incredible game. Incredible game. You saw McLeod Bethel-Thompson play really well. You saw Andrew Harris come back. He's going up against his old team right now in the Grey Cup. You have all the pieces to win the Grey Cup. And once again, many can say that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are going to make it or going to win. They're going for their three-peat, but you play to win the game. You play the game because you never know what will happen. As evidence will say with the Buffalo Bills playing against the Jets last week and the Jets winning. So you have to play the game. It doesn't matter who's up in there. You have to play the game. You know what? Rather than going to the Tom Brady, of course, is the first quarterback to win now in 4 countries. He's won in Toronto. He's won in Canada. He's won in England. He's won in, Mexico. Right, and I wouldn't say countries. It's still North America. And he's won in Germany. Okay, Germany. One thing I'll say is a special shout out to Devin White. Devin White found that his dad passed away 2 hours before game time and had the game of his life. And the strip sack. If you have him on fantasy, he had 17 points. He's the tackles and tackles. He was inspired today. That's usually what happens when you get inspired about certain things. Especially, I just want to give a shout out to him, praying for his family, going through probably a tough time right now. But he played his butt off in that game. Tom Brady can't catch the ball. He did make a comment saying he'd come to the CFL to see how much he can be able to play. Of course, Tom Brady's divorce now is obviously public with Gisele Bündchen. It's in Germany as well too, as she's a German. Interesting occasion. But just seeing that team win the past 2 weeks against LA Rams and now against the Seattle Seahawks, who were actually a good team as well too, is impressive, right? It wasn't the cleanest game, but they got it done at 9:30 in Germany. They're now a contender, and they were always going to, like I told you last week, they're going to win that division. You got the Atlanta Falcons, you have the Saints, you don't really, you have the Panthers. You don't really have teams that are going to challenge you in that division, unfortunately, because Dalton's still starting. I personally think the Saints should be a lot better than what they are, but right now that's what they are. I'm going to go over to another guy that's been kind of forgotten and put into the back burner. That's Aaron Rodgers. He showed for the first time at home against Dallas Cowboys that he still got it. And I knew he still had it. We all knew he still had it. But he needed to open up a game and have a game where he wasn't just throwing those screens. He wasn't just throwing these little dump offs. He was actually going for it and throwing the ball a little bit deeper. And they're you got to give a lot of credit to Matt LaFleur as well, too, for spreading the ball out to Chris Watson. He had 3 touchdowns on the day, all over the top, all routes that are more so intermediate to deep routes. They needed a deep threat. This team desperately needed a deep threat because the best way that Rodgers plays is with a deep threat. He needs a deep threat to stretch the field. He gets the ball there. Once again, he's the best thrower of the football of all time. Not the GOAT, but the best thrower of football of all time. Don't even get it twisted. Obviously, you can be a little bit of a weird guy, but he spread the ball around. You have Aaron Jones running the ball really well. You have A.J. Dillon. No one wants to tackle him. It's frigid weather. Dallas played well, too. CeeDee Lamb got into the end zone twice. Tony Pollard is a better running back than Ezekiel Elliott right now. He's playing really well. Dak Prescott had some questionable turnovers, but that's Dak Prescott. Once again, the quarterback position is very hard to play, very hard to do perfectly. That's why it's so impressive when you see a guy like Brady, Peyton Manning, and who else, like Montana and Rodgers, you can even say, playing at such a high level for such a long time because the game is that tough to analyze and do well all the time. Plus, you have all the pressure on you. If you don't play well, your team doesn't play well. It just doesn't happen. If you don't play well, the team does not play well. The Eagles are not 8-0 anymore. They're 8-1 as they lose to the Washington Commanders. Taylor Heineke will be the starter going forward. Rivera did come out after the game and did say that he's unsure about who's going to start. Yes, they're paying Carson Wentz a lot of money, but Taylor Heineke is getting done. He's spreading the ball out too. He's played with Taylor McLaurin. He's played with these guys a lot more. He has a good special connection with them. He spreads the ball a lot more than a Carson Wentz. He's doing a better job than Carson Wentz, so he has to stay in there. They're selling tickets in Washington right now with Taylor Heineke's name or for face and name on it, like with a signature. So of course you have to. It's really, really fun. A lot of Washington Commanders fans are saying that it's just like a fun time right now. Taylor Heineke is not serious. Nah, you got to understand this is probably a serious deal. He's going to be a guy there for a bit. That's the bottom line. There's so many storylines we can go into. The fact that right now Cooper Kupp has gone in the IR. He's undergoing ankle surgery, but will miss around 4 weeks. It's incredible. You have surgery, we can come back in 4 weeks. It's kind of questionable to me, but I can see him doing it because he's just a workhorse. Goddard is going to miss some extended time for the Eagles because he has a shorter injury, so that's going to be something we'll see. Wide receiver for the Packers, Amari Rodgers gets released because he's fumbled yet another punt, but they put him in really bad positions. He's a guy out of Clemson, so hopefully he gets picked up by someone really soon. But it's interesting to see what's going on in the league, of course, too, with a lot of things we have, right? The Raiders, they still suck, for lack of a better term. They're lost to the Indianapolis Colts because so they're pretty much saying they could put any coach against the Raiders. Anyone could take someone off the road, take someone from a high school program, just like you did with Jeff Saturday, and you can beat the Raiders. And that's exactly what the Indianapolis Colts did. So Devontae Adams is frustrated, calling out the coach, pretty much saying they're doing the same crap as last week, not really changing anything up. So, hey, you made your bed, you got to lay in it. Devontae, I'm sorry. You could have been winning with Aaron Rodgers and Mr. Ayahuasca, but you chose not to. And that's your fault. But I just want to make sure I highlighted the Bills game because that was incredible. It's just a great time in general watching football, and there's even more stuff to be had. The Ohio State Buckeyes, number 2, they win convincingly against Indiana this past week. Saw Taylor Babb actually get a touchdown. He's had 4 ACL surgeries. Comes back, scores a touchdown. That was an incredible story, just seeing how football and sports really resonate with people and emotions. I remember having like a situation where a partner I used to have said like, "Hey, you only like cry about like sports stuff. You never cry about me." I'm like, "Damn right. That's real life. Sports is life. Ball is life. Football is life. That's what it is, right?" Cannot stop thinking about that Vikings Bills game. anytime you have the Vikings playing, anytime you have the Bills playing, it's pretty much must-see TV at this point. But that game, two wagons, two teams that are at the top of their game right now, with a great game and just a great performance. And I urge you all to even go back and just watch that game over again and tell me, does it make sense? Because nothing about the ending of that game made any sense. Nothing. I couldn't imagine being there, being a Bills fan, and watching that happen. It's just like having your heart literally taken out of your chest without even any impromptu. Incredible. But this is the TRUENORTH.BET podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Graham. Might be coming back with another podcast fairly soon. Hope you enjoyed all these games. Hope you're enjoying this commentary. If you have anything to say, this will be posted on Instagram. So you can obviously comment on that. Have anything you want to say, which I will be reposting. And any questions you have as well, too, about the year. You let me know. Because I'll go toe-to-toe with anyone on what we're talking about here. Anyone. We want the smoke. Let's get it. But this is the TRUENORTH.BET podcast. It's obviously a great time to obviously speak to you all about these games, divulge and give you my thoughts. And of course, I want to invite you to give me your thoughts as well, too. But shout out to the Argos. You see this right here. Argos in the Grey Cup. We talked with them at the start of the year. I'm a season ticket holder. Let's hopefully see them get the Grey Cup. This is the TRUENORTH.BET podcast. Keep balling, and we'll talk to you very soon.